Quick trigger warning, this episode of the podcast contains references to mental health, addiction, and suicidal thoughts. It's a positive and inspiring story of our guest's journey to overcome these issues and build a better future for himself and those around him. But for anyone who might be triggered by these topics, viewer and listener discretion is advised. If you or someone you know needs support, you can go to camh.ca, or for crisis support, you can call or text 988.
Along the way, I lost all relationships, a marriage, friendships. I was definitely on the last straw with my parents. I had got a couple of DUIs.
Rather than putting on this facade like, hey, I'm Ryan Huffman,
Maybe one of my pet peeves is fake people. And I'm not here to kind of be a fake person and tell you kind of what you want to hear. Definitely had men call me at their lowest and wanting, thinking about suicide or whatever the case, and having to talk to them and kind of draw on my real life experiences to be able to help them.
Did you know there's a popular new building trend in Japanese real estate? Floating houses. So these houses hover 3 inches off the ground using magnetic levitation, but during earthquakes, they rise to 2 feet above ground level. Now, what you just heard was complete BS, but I promise you that as of right now, this is the Zero BS Real Estate Podcast. If you're a real estate agent, you know the industry is unpredictable, it's full of challenges, but it's also full of successes and unique stories that often go untold. This podcast is about giving realtors and industry leaders a platform to share their lived experiences, the highs, the lows, and the lessons they've learned along the way. I'm John Reed from Reed Media Agency, and given that I'm not a realtor myself, I want to bring a fresh perspective to these conversations, ask questions that others might not think to ask, challenge assumptions, and explore the why behind the way things are done. This is an unfiltered space where we uncover what really works, what doesn't, and what it's like to build a career in real estate today. In this episode of the podcast, I'm joined by my new but dear friend, Ryan Huffman. It was a real honor to sit down with Ryan and hear his incredible story of personal and professional growth over the past few years. And it's quite a roller coaster, going from ambition to success and then from excess to rock bottom. But thankfully, that is not the end of the story. And you'll hear Ryan speak candidly about his recovery and how he's defied the odds to build a hugely successful real estate career, all while giving back to the community, especially those who are most at risk of the impact of addiction and mental health issues. And you'll want to stick around to the end to hear the details of a massive giveaway for anyone looking to improve their own mental health or physical health or both, and to be part of Ryan's mission to give back. All right, now to the conversation.
On today's podcast, I am delighted to welcome a good friend of mine, Mr. Ryan Huffman.
Thanks for having me.
I'm interested to hear more of your story. I guess just start by finding out a little bit about what got you into real estate, right? You've had an extremely successful start.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it that made you decide that you wanted to get into real estate?
Well, a couple of things. One being is I've always had a passion for real estate. I've always kind of followed it and wanted to get involved and been kind of involved. Second is that I was at a point in my life where I was at treatment, and I faced the reality of whether or not I was going to go back to the old business and back to kind of the city, or if I was going to make a complete lifestyle change and what that was going to look like. So obviously having kind of this passion for real estate, I took a leap of faith and I started the online program. And kind of never looked back. Luckily enough, the business that I was working at, we had a friendly competitor approach while I was in treatment and put an offer on the table. And while I was in treatment, the business was kind of maybe not suffering, but they probably felt me being away.
Right.
And so we made a decision to kind of accept that offer, take that offer, which allowed me the flexibility and a bit of freedom to kind of, put my life on hold for a year and figure things out.
Right.
And
And what was that business?
so that business was an industrial automation company.
Okay.
So I've kind of completely switched gears. Still sales,
Right.
still an ownership managerial position, but it was basically how it's made. It was on the road every day, going from business to business, factory to factory, plant to plant.
Right.
And
So very much like a high pressure sales job.
oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were a very small outfit. There's only like a handful of employees. So there was a ton of pressure on myself being part owner and one of very few salespeople
Right.
to produce and to keep that company alive and survive and kind of food on the table for myself, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say are the main differences? I mean, aside from obviously you've been in treatment, and if you don't mind, I'd love to hear more about that. Like in a little while, but like.
Sure.
If you look at the actual job and the work and the pressure and everything of your previous role in your business versus now, what would you say the main differences are in terms of like the pressure and the lifestyle that?
Yeah. Good question. I think that the other business was you're dealing with a very each situation. You're dealing with like maintenance managers and engineers. But I mean, I guess you're still dealing with people, but maintenance managers and engineers, you kind of know what you're going to get. There's some flexibility and stuff. Real estate, you don't know what you're going
Right.
to get. People, you're dealing with people from all walks of life. You're dealing with people from all kinds of different situations. And with real estate, the last thing that I really am is a real estate agent or a realtor.
So what else are you then?
Well, you're a shrink. You know, first and foremost, you are dealing with people's prized possessions in one of the biggest transactions of their life. So you're literally walking people away or off the bridge. You know, you're the financial advisor. I have a past. I went to school for commerce.
Right.
So I have a very good understanding of mortgages. I have a very good understanding of finance. And, you know, so on the spot, I could be doing people's mortgages. Not that I'm a professional mortgage person,
advise them.
but I can advise them and I can I have an understanding that I know what they can afford, or if there's a situation that presents itself
Right.
and their mortgage advisor isn't available or the finance person isn't available.
So I guess the previous role, there was a lot more predictability in terms
Sure.
of how
Sure.
like each day or each interaction would go. Whereas with real estate, it's
Yeah.
it's literally
Yeah, you could be going from an estranged relationship where a guy or a lady are up against a divorce,
Right.
and they're going through this resentful experience.
See, I thought real estate agents just like were making people's dreams come true, and like every day was like,
yeah, this lavish luxury lifestyle.
yeah,
No, behind the scenes, it's a completely different ballgame. You're on the
Right.
phone and you're dealing with people's personalities. Like I said, you could be a shrink, you could be a financial person, you're a marketing exec, you're in sales, and then you're a negotiator, because at the end of the day, you're trying to negotiate the best terms or deal possible for your clients, and
Right.
and it's it's an array of things, that's for sure.
So it sounds like you've brought like a great deal of you know, like past experience with your kind of natural like inclinations towards certain things, and that's given you the opportunity to provide value to clients,
For sure.
and that's reflected in your performance. So like, what you're only 4 years in now?
Yeah, February, I will be, this will be the completion of my 4th year. So February 23rd or 26th, I
Right.
believe, would be the 4-year anniversary.
And would you just like boast a little bit, please, about like your results so far in the first 4 years, first 3.5 years?
We've been very blessed, and to come back home and to have the support that we have from the community has been it's blowing me away. So first of all, we're very blessed for that. But yeah, I think that we'll finish in the top 15 in the country for EXP after making the switch. Our first year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Well,
on that success.
Thank you.
You mentioned there about you've got the support of the community in Coburg, and I guess that's always been the case, right? You were the golden boy, and did all of the right things growing up, and so they've you're the shining example of how to live a good life, right?
Yeah. I guess you could say that. Yeah, it's a small town, and I guess being somewhat of an athlete and playing in rep sports and stuff like that, you're when I was growing up, anyways, it seemed like you might have been given a little bit of a favorable hand in certain situations, but in terms of the golden child, I would if you ask my parents, I don't know. I guess I excelled at school and I excelled at sports, what allowed me to kind of live a different lifestyle.
Right.
Not probably traditional to most, but yeah, I enjoyed when I found partying and I found kind of drinking, I thought that I'd found my calling. And so
Right.
I guess I could live a couple of different lifestyles, doing so well in school and so well in athletics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it came to you getting into the business, like how did the party, the kind of indulgent lifestyle that you'd started to become accustomed to, like how did that interplay with the business?
Well, sales and partying can go hand in hand, and they
Right.
can complement each other extremely well.
Right.
Being in the city, and a lot of the customers were in Toronto, you can kind of wine and dine and live that kind of that rock and roll kind of lifestyle, and
Right.
wine and dine your clients, because a lot of times business and the partying and doing stuff like that complements each other, and business is associated with it. So it's all about relationship buildings and finding the people that like to do that type of stuff,
Right.
that were in positions to make decisions and to buy products. And
Right.
and I guess like anything, or like that lifestyle, you do find those people, and it kind of made business, or doing business, or it added the dimension, and it was a perfect fit for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And like how far did it go? Was it like Wolf of Wall Street type? Like
There's probably a couple of clients that we've done some things that I don't know if it was Wolf of Wall Street style, but I think that if I was to watch the Wolf of Wall Street, or mafia movies and stuff like that, I think that that's the type of person that in my head I always kind of wanted to be, and that was the lifestyle that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
Until you get into that lifestyle, and then you wake up and every day you need to do that type of stuff to function and to go on about your day.
So it becomes so much a part of the lifestyle that it's the only thing that keeps you going.
Well, it's required. It's necessary. I got to a point in my life where I couldn't roll out of bed. I couldn't function without, it's a sad, dark story, but I couldn't get up. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything without drinking or taking a certain substance, usually a pill, to get myself rolling. And then that would give me the ability to kind of go and do sales and give presentations to whoever, like the city of Toronto, or whoever it needed to be, to kind of do my job. I was very functioning, and the pills and the opioids completely changed the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you mentioned that you'd been you were in treatment before you became a real estate agent. So, like, fill in the gaps for us. Like, obviously, at some point, you recognized that it was a problem, and was that a gradual thing, or was there something that kind of gave you a reality check? What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, if you do research or you go into certain programs, they say that addiction is a kind of a progressive disease, and it definitely was progressive in my case, where I guess if you look back, or I look back, or my parents look back, or those closest to me look back, you could recognize the fact that I would probably had a problem with substances from the very beginning.
Right.
Because as soon as I indulged, or as soon as I drank, for instance, you became a different person. I became the person that I wanted to be.
Right. So it was something you relied upon.
Oh, it made everything. It made me, you want to go and dance, you want to talk. I was a very shy person. I felt very alone.
Right.
With alcohol, I no longer felt alone.
Right.
I became the person that I kind of had this visualization, and it made the parties and interactions and the social settings that much better.
So would you say it was a way that you created an identity for yourself?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, especially even growing up or in my 20s, it was you wanted to have a good time. I think that I was probably around the top of the list until you weren't on the top of the list, and then you became on the bottom of the list
Right.
of people of getting invited out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was certainly identity, and it was so to get the treatment and to recognize the problem. Yeah, it progressively got worse. Doing sales, and excelling at my profession.
I guess that makes it even more difficult
Well,
because
that's
you're on a roll.
Well, I mean, it becomes an enabling thing,
Right.
Kind of like my education was growing up with my parents. I found school extremely easy, so I could always throw that in their face,
Right.
and say, well, look at this, and
Like, get off my case.
exactly,
Right.
exactly, because for them it was marks, university, university, university.
Yeah.
So I found that a joke, and I sports, those two I could throw in their face and say, I'm doing good here and get away with the other side of things. So it progressed to a point, like I said, where it became a reliance. It became a reliance for me to get up and to go about my daily routine. Along the way, I lost all relationships, any relationship that I was in with a girl, a marriage, friendships.
Well,
I was definitely on the last straw with my parents. I had got a couple of DUIs. At my very rock bottom, I ended up in a ditch with another DUI. And it got to the point, John, where I was just like, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'd call my dad crying in the parking lot of a liquor store and being like, I just wish that I couldn't. I wish that I didn't have to go in here. I couldn't stop myself. I had to go in to get that bottle of booze to go about my daily routine. And anyways, after a second DUI, I thought that the business that I was in was over. My partnership was over. I was on the last straw with my parents, and suicide had been looking good for the years leading up to that, but that specific day, it was looking really good. And anyways, after I left the police station, I went back to this motel in the town where I had kind of ended up in this ditch, and randomly was knocking on these doors, and this guy
at the motel
opened his door. I knew if I got to the right door, you see these motels,
right? You know what's going on inside.
It's up,
right?
And so I had made a decision that I was probably going to get enough of my substances, and I really didn't think that I was going to make it another few days.
Right.
I was definitely convinced that I was going to take my life, because I just couldn't stop, and I was in a very, very, very dark place, and I didn't think that I could get out of it.
Wow.
So luckily enough, my business partner at the time had called my parents and said, I guess you have to give the okay to ping your cell phones to the police.
Okay.
I'm not sure the process, but anyways, they granted the ability to ping my phone.
To actually locate you?
To locate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'd made a phone call to my mom. And probably gave her the indication that might be the last time that she ever talks to me.
Wow.
And the days are a little bit weary, but I think that it was a day or two later that they ended up tracking me down, and off I went to Ross Memorial Hospital and was formed for 72 hours.
Wow.
And I had made a decision that I was never going in that, in the mental health wards, which also saved my life, and the people there were outstanding. It's where I found AA, and I had pledged to myself while sitting in one of those rooms that I was never going to touch alcohol or drugs again. And because of that and my outlook and all of that they allowed me to stay there for 3 weeks until I found a treatment facility.
Okay.
And I basically transferred from Ross Memorial Hospital in Lindsay right to Renfrew, where I went to McKay Manor.
Wow.
And luckily enough, had kind of the means that I was able to put my life on hold for 10 months. And I was at treatment from basically March till the next year, January, I left.
Wow.
Yep.
Thanks for sharing that. It's
Yep.
quite the story. When you made that decision in the initial healthcare facility that you were in, that you were never going to touch drugs or alcohol again, it sounds like you made that with a conviction that was, you know, quite remarkable, because I understand the cycle of addiction. I've struggled with that myself. And I understand how it's not as simple as saying, okay, I'm done.
Well,
Right. And then
Right.
and then what, like, that's it, like, magically. So what was,
Well, I mean,
is there anything different apart from the fact that
Yeah.
obviously you'd had that experience where you were very close to taking your life. And so,
Yeah.
but was there anything else that gave you the actual strength and conviction to,
Well, it was 10 years of fucking up and, always saying I was going to do this or moderate on this or do less of this or go from whiskey to beer or not touch this substance and go on this substance. It was a crazy night.
so trying to manage it, basically.
Yeah, you're always trying to manage it.
Yeah.
You're always somewhere that you're not.
Right.
This specific instance, I was with a lady and she was pregnant and it was a crazy night, and it was almost like this. I was sitting in the hospital bed, and I'm kind of reflecting on my entire life here. And here I am, 35 years old, and some crazy stories, some crazy events, and I was faced with the fact that I was about to walk out of this place with absolutely nothing. Coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally enough, the girl that I was with had called and said that she had lost the baby that she is pregnant with. And I was kind of living with her at the time in Barrie, hence the fact that I ended up at this motel in Beaverton trying to get back home to take her to Ottawa on this February Valentine's Day for interlude or whatever it was. I never made it. And it was, I was sitting in this hotel room, in this hospital room, and everything just went like silent. It was like this crazy experience. And they say sometimes you have this like spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it was somewhat spiritual, where maybe it's God, my higher power, whoever it was. And everything just went like silent. And I felt like something kind of release. And it was that night that I was like, okay, I think that we can do this. And that's when I that's when I promised to myself that I was never going to touch drug or alcohol. And I said it out loud. And whether or not it's God or a higher power or whatever you believe, I do believe that I believe in God, but I also believe that there's something greater out there that has control over all of this, because I was on, like, the statistics for me to get to where I am today were heavily stacked against me.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you got the treatment. It was 11 months that you were in treatment.
I think it's 10 months. So March till like January.
And so what was that next part of your journey then, when you came out of the treatment? And did you, like, while you were in treatment, did you then set the goal that you were going to become a realtor? And, then you had a plan in place of the different steps that you were going to take to make that a reality?
Yeah, I've always been very results oriented, and I've always been able to kind of, I don't know what it is, maybe it's the A-type personality, but I'm very goal driven. And I would be lying if I didn't say that I wasn't very, like, money drives me. And when you ask back on, what did you, you see the lifestyles that we talked about, this luxury, and I knew that there's a lot of money in real estate if you're good at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I set this plan in place that I was going to move back home. I was going to move back from the city. I still had a place in Oshawa that I was renting out. So I was still generating income.
Right.
And I made a decision. I was going to AA meetings, and we had a plan in place that I was going to transition back home. And so I'd started going to AA meetings back home in Northumberland and Coburg and Port Hope. And I had this plan that I was going to complete the real estate course. I finished course 1 or on my way to finishing course 2 when I moved back home. PPI was in the process of selling, and I kind of knew that I had a bit of a safety net
Right.
to work with. Very fortunate. And it's crazy, it kind of gets sidetracked here, but just thinking, when you start doing the right things and the programs treat you, it's crazy how certain things fall into place and how things kind of work out.
Yeah.
And so all of these cards just stacked up extremely well for me, and I'm very grateful and fortunate that they worked out that way. So I was able to kind of put my life on hold. Funny story is that I was going to these meetings, and I didn't really want to move back home with my mom and dad. And I noted I had this place in Oshawa, and I was going to these meetings, and I met this girl who I'm still with today, and she now works with Ryan with the real estate, Ryan Huffman real estate full time. And so I basically moved, and it's against all rules. I moved from treatment after having 9 months of sobriety. I guess I would have been 10 months at that time, and I moved right into her apartment in Port Hope.
Wow. Okay.
I met her at a meeting. Not recommended for anybody that's out there that's struggling. It's definitely not recommended.
The relationship dynamics are not exactly. Yeah.
So
but I mean, there's always exceptions to everything. And
yeah. So we moved. I moved from Renfrew to Port Hope in their apartment. Mom and Dad were still in Coburg, and kind of the rest is history. I mean, there was a little bit of a curveball with COVID, but
it seems quite a it's a downward trajectory, and then you talked about rock bottom, but it seems like you were able to turn it around. And you talk about like things stacking up, and once you start to do the right things, it's kind of like just up and up and up and up and up. So yeah, that's amazing, man. And so then you got your real estate license. Was that so you said you completed the courses necessary, and then you applied for the license. Like, what was that like?
That was a process. I had mentioned that I had a couple of DUIs, and so to become a professional, you have to disclose this information. So it wasn't as easy as your standard. Most people just kind of send it in once you have your schooling done and you've chose the brokerage that you're going to.
Kind of rubber stamp, and that's it.
And a couple of days, and you have your real estate license from RICO. Mine was a very non-traditional, so I had to kind of disclose all of the information. I had to, I kind of had to disclose a lot of things. I had to write basically a paper and let them know kind of what had happened, what I'm doing. At that time, I'm going to meetings. I have a sponsor. I was sponsoring others. And
so you basically had to write like a personal witness statement or whatever, like to justify why you should be allowed to become a realtor.
Yeah, and at that time, the second DUI was still in the courts. So they had to make a decision on whether or not they were going to grant me this, not knowing what the outcome of that trial or that case was going to be.
Wow, okay.
And so it was a process in which I had to keep them updated on all of the happenings and doings that was.
Sure.
And I was convicted. 3 years ago, November. And so they had to review the court cases and the files, and they saw everything that I was doing. The court case and all of the files kind of showcased a lot of maybe not showcased is the wrong word, but within that, it, a lot of the positive things that we had been doing were recognized in the court files. Right. Whether or not that had anything to do with the decision, I'm not sure. I always banked on the fact that they weren't going to give me something and then just take it away.
Right.
Because the court case could have went either way. So it was, it's been a very stressful process. I would be lying if I said that everything's been peaches and cream, and my anxiety's been been non-existent, but it's been a very stressful, anxious kind of time.
Yeah.
Because I guess at the end of the day, you just never know.
Yeah.
But this process has allowed us to start a foundation, and part of my journey, part of my recovery, or a big part of my recovery is kind of living that you can only keep what you have by giving it away. And right now, with the mental health and addiction problems that we have, that you can see everywhere,
Epidemic, some would say.
yeah. And Ashley's in the program, and I'm sure she'd be fine with me saying this, but we definitely have made a conscious effort, or maybe a life decision, that our motto is going to be, you can only keep what you have by giving it away. And
Right.
And on every day, I strive to make this world, a better place for those that are suffering. I've said openly, my contact information is everywhere. Anybody that's struggling, men, women, give me a call anytime.
Mm.
My phone is always on. We've started a bunch of programs, going back with being in Lindsay and Ross Memorial Hospital. There was a gym facility just down the road, and they would allow me to leave for this, brief 2 or 3 hours, because in the mental health ward, the doors don't swing both ways. Like, they're behind
okay.
you. Like, you got to be signed out.
Right.
Because there's.
So this desire to give back, how much of that is just kind of your natural inclination, and how much of it comes from the 12-step philosophy? Because I've been through a 12-step program myself, and I know that it's like service,
Right,
is such an essential part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, if I'm not being of service to people, volunteering, or helping people in some way, I feel like there's a huge piece of me that's just completely missing, and I start to lose my mind, if I'm being honest. And so is that one of the motivations is.
I think the 12-step program certainly brings light to that, but for me, I feel like it's very natural. But yeah, I mean, you work the steps, and part of the 12th step is giving back and being of service, and being of service to the still suffering addict, alcoholic, whatever, fill in the blank. And so it was a very natural thing for me to kind of do. I think that I've been kind of always had a big heart, and always been a big softy inside, for those that struggle and those that need help. And so luckily enough, we've been able to have the success that we've had, and have some means, and have the support of the community to be able to run a golf tournament, for instance. And in 3 years, we've raised $110,000 or more.
Wow.
To be able to start programs, to be able to put youth in sport, because sport was such a big vice for me growing up, and for my mental health. It still is to this day. I've got myself back into hockey, and the facility that I was talking about down the road from Ross Memorial, they allowed me to check out and go to this gym. And from that day, I've probably only missed going to the gym, I don't know how many times. Like, I probably counted on 2 hands.
Wow.
Because it is such a massive, massive part of my recovery.
You use the word vice in an interesting context there, because most people would use the word vice as in something that's a problem, and something that is an overindulgence, right? Talk a little bit more about what you mean because it sounded like you were talking about it in a positive light. And I think I know what you mean, but
yeah. I have a very aggressive kind of, I'm very competitive, massively competitive. So anytime that I put my mind to doing something, it is, I basically do whatever it takes.
It's an obsession.
That's right.
Right.
And
so if you have to have an obsession, it might as well be one that.
Yeah. So through sport, through hockey, through even running, for instance, running can be aggressive, because you're using it as a vice to get out of your head, to get the anxiety, to deal with the mental health. But also, hockey is a very physical sport, so I can use that as a vice to take out some aggression that might be pent up, and use it in a positive manner instead of using it in a negative manner.
You know what I find really interesting? So I'm from England, obviously, and when I came over to Canada, and I saw how aggressive ice hockey was, I was really surprised at it. But then what surprised me even more is that, and this might just be, the people that I was around, like, my kind of new friends and family when I came over to Canada, but like, is the most aggressive people on the ice are generally the big softies and the really kind of cool and chilled out people, right? Whereas in England, there's like a big problem with like football hooliganism and like just fight culture. But then I made a connection, and it's probably that, or at least in part, that like there's an outlet there, with the sport, and so that actually, makes it far less likely that you would then act out that aggression in other ways. So
yeah, between that and the gym. But yeah, hockey for sure. I mean, rivalries between like Coburg and Port Hope, and you'd go and play hockey one night against Coburg versus Port Hope, for instance, when we were growing up, and then next day I'm sitting next to the guy that I just
pounded,
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
We were sitting next to each other in math class the next day.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. But
yeah, I remember the first time I was at a hockey game, and then the game stopped and the gloves were off, and then they started. I'm just like, is nobody going to do anything about this? And my brother-in-law who was with was like, no, this is part of the game. Yeah. What? Anyway, can you speak? So I want to find out a little bit more about like how it went for you with real estate and what you did to create such a success so quickly. But can you just give a little plug to the foundation? Just if you can just kind of explain what it is that the foundation is doing,
sure.
And also how people can contribute, how people can get involved if they feel like they want to.
Absolutely. So it's the Ryan Huffman Foundation that we've set up through the process of holding some golf tournaments and other events. And it's online. You can go to the website, the Ryan Huffman Foundation. All of the events and everything's listed and how you can kind of get involved. The biggest event is our golf tournament. The golf tournament will be May 9th. It's always the second Friday in May. We found that for some reason it seems to do extremely well with businesses and budgets, and being one of the first golf tournaments of the year, we've done extremely well with that. So if you want to get in contact or join or put a team in or sponsor, it's all online, or you can email me at Ryan at ryan-huffman.com.
Okay.
Or Google us, or our information is kind of out there. So
okay,
yeah,
very worthy cause. So anyone who feels inclined would definitely be something good to support. Okay, so you came out of treatment, you did the unthinkable in your program, and then, had that relationship, which then became the beautiful thing that it became, and all the rest of it. What happened with the real estate aspect, right?
Right.
Like you, presumably you weren't the golden boy returning to Coburg.
Right.
Like you,
right.
You probably had to kind of reestablish yourself and trust with people there as you were building your real estate career. Just speak a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah, I guess it definitely was a bit of a roll of the dice, and doing stuff like this and kind of being on the forefront with the recovery part is a bit of the roll of the dice. I'm not sure, there's a bunch of things that went into what I think made us successful, but the support has been tremendous. I didn't know how Northumberland or we were going to be received, but I think that through a lot of the marketing, the advertising, our social media, I joined back to the local golf club where I was also very well received. I grew up at Dalewood. There's a plug competing, and some of my fondest moments, memories were at Dalewood, and I went back. I joined. I'm now on the board, and then through sport and the different programs, AA and NA, I feel like we've been able to kind of make a positive contribution to a lot of different areas in the community, and through those, and teamed up with their marketing and advertising that we do with our social media. I think that it's like I didn't see the success that I didn't fathom. I didn't know how well we were going to be received. I think that it's definitely been well beyond what I ever thought that we could do. But again, like I said, I don't get into anything that I don't want to become the best at and become number one. I have that I guess that bulldog mentality that that does so well in sales. So
Right.
so it's a natural, I guess I don't know if I'm a natural, but I definitely sales and negotiating and real estate is somewhat cutthroat, I guess. It's a very competitive business.
So what would you say are some of the things that you bring to your real estate business, and in particular how you're able to achieve results for yourself and your client?
Right.
What are some things that you have brought from your experiences and the struggles that you've had? Like, how has that influenced?
For sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And I kind of thought that you might ask something along those lines. It's kind of a survival of the fittest type gig. And I just said that it's so competitive and the, not that I was living on the streets. I might have been not too far away, but that lifestyle, that kind of that street mentality, if you will, and it's like a hustle. So I think that real estate's a pure hustle. I think that if you were to relate it back to kind of, the party life or the using and all of that, it's a lifestyle of a hustle. And usually those that are hustling and stuff seem to come out on top. So I've been able to kind of take that. I mean, I equate it all to like sports as well. It's the competitiveness, that pit bull mentality or whatever it is.
How do you handle the like the pressure and the stress that can come along with that?
I think that I've had pressure and stress feels like my entire life. My I love my parents, and I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for my parents. Like they were my best friends growing up, and I definitely wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for my parents. But there was a ton of pressure that I felt was put on me from the beginning, whether it was sports or schooling. And then teachers put the pressure on you, coaches put the pressure on you. I feel like, and maybe why, it was an easy fit with alcohol to go behind closed doors and kind of take away all of that pressure.
Right.
Because I felt like there's been pressure that's put on me my whole entire life. And I'm probably the worst critic
Putting pressure on
for
yourself.
putting pressure on myself, because nothing short of being the best, I'm really satisfied with. Which I'm working on myself today to find balance and to find happiness and to not always want to, never be satisfied. But all of these things kind of go hand in hand, and then relationships. It's all about relationship building, and I've always kind of been able to no matter what environment I'm thrown into, I've been able to have this ability to make and build relationships.
That's why you were good in sales.
Yeah, and have this like chameleon type. I could always fit into no matter what crowd it was, or whatever it seems to be like. Whatever business, whatever it calls for, I'm able to kind of adapt and manipulate myself into a situation to be able to deal with this, and then to be kind of well-rounded with real estate, and to be able to have the business to maybe have this kind of like roughish, competitive, streetish, hustlish mentality for my clients, and to be able to deal with other agents and to deal with these situations has probably done me well.
Yeah, I'm just remembering somebody who I was speaking to not too long ago, a real estate agent. He told me that there's actually, I'm pretty sure he said there's a lot of like ex-professional athletes who come into real estate.
Yeah.
And so I guess it stands to reason with that whole competitive, high pressure. What's that? What would you say is the unique value that you can bring to clients, and the way that you would deal with, like you said, it's like the biggest, you didn't say biggest asset, but like, it's a big deal for them. Like, what do you think that you can bring to your clients that is of a unique value?
I think that it's just the well-roundedness that I can kind of adapt and be able to deal with any kind of situation that they're going through.
So you're not phased if you show up and there's some dysfunctionality in the household. Oh, like everything is not rosy in the garden.
Yeah, nothing phases me really. I'm never really blown away. It takes a lot for me to kind of be blown away with everything that I've kind of been through and some of the things that I've seen in my life.
Right.
But hey, I pride myself on being the hardest working individual. I know that there's a lot of hardworking agents in Northumberland and around, but I certainly pride myself on being the hardest working. I'm 24/7. I don't stop. My life is real estate. Luckily enough, I have a partner that allows me to live, breathe, eat, chew on, spit out. It's real estate. I live and breathe my job. I feel like I'm the hardest working person, and it's all about doing whatever it takes to get to become the best in the business.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I'm seeing in terms of your message and the openness of how you speak about the struggles that you had, I think, you know, there's I don't know, but I would imagine that there are people in the real estate industry who probably need to hear that and probably, you know, would feel that they can relate to that. Maybe it makes them feel a bit better about their situation. And I guess that's part of what you said about rolling the dice, like being so open about it. But I guess presenting yourself or creating some persona that is different to who you are, I guess that was never an option for you.
no, I don't think so. I mean, maybe one of my pet peeves is fake people, and I'm not here to kind of be a fake person and tell you kind of what you want to hear. I'm very matter of fact, and I am who I am, and I'm very proud of who I've become. I think that for anybody that's listening or struggling, like you said, you know, you don't need to be ashamed of it. It's a sickness, and people are struggling all over, and I'm proud of who I've become, and I'm not ashamed to tell people that I was a bit of a mess, and I couldn't get out of bed with taking a drink or popping an opioid or whatever it was, because if I didn't go through all of that, I wouldn't be who I am today, and I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah.
So to say that I'm ashamed of that or ashamed of myself or trying to hide it, I just don't feel like that I have that in me, because I'm kind of proud of who I am, and I'm proud of the experiences that I've gone through.
It shaped you.
It shaped me to be who I am today.
Yeah.
And maybe is a reason why we've been so successful and so good at what we do.
Yeah.
And I want to be able for people to come up and to, you know, want to be able to kind of engage with me. I don't want to be unengageable. And I hear that sometimes people feel like certain, you know, that as real estate agents, we aren't. And I think that I pride myself on being presentable and being an open book.
And that whole open book and being approachable, you said before, like, you know, you've made it clear that anybody can call you
anytime.
Have you had experiences where there have been people who've connected with you after, you know, relating to your story, and they were looking for whether it's like specifically looking for guidance or just looking for a listening ear?
All the time. You know, some of my best friends that I've made are one gentleman was in Guelph and just called me out of the blue. I partied with him like 15 years ago and hadn't heard from him since then. And he reached out, and today we're kind of best friends. But all of the time, I you know, with the Upturn program that we have through the Ryan Huffman Foundation that we've created at the YMCA, for instance, just being in the change room and having fathers come up to me and like in tears, and brings tears to my eyes to say, like, you've saved my son's life. You've saved my life. To be able to call people with the initiative that we have through the Ryan Huffman Foundation, and to be able to put young girls into gymnastics. I didn't know kind of how tasking gymnastics and dance is financially on families.
Right.
And to call and to be able to provide funding to put young girls into gymnastics and have their parents, you know, absolutely fall apart on the other line. It just makes my day so Yeah, and then in terms of the programming and the 12-step programs, I'm a sponsor and I put myself out there, and all of the time, I'll have somebody, or not all of the time, but I've definitely had men call me at their lowest and wanting, thinking about suicide or whatever the case, and having to talk to them and kind of draw on my real life experiences to be able to help them. And at the end of the day, I don't do all of this stuff for the accolades, and I don't do it so people come up to me in the change rooms to be like, you saved my son's life. And I don't do it for the awards that we've won, like the community champion stuff. I don't do it for that. I do it because that's what life is all about. And it's such, life is about more than,
Yourself.
money and all of that. It's about giving back, and it's about trying to make this a we thing, not an I thing, because it's a battle. Life is fucked up, and it's a struggle. And I still have anxiety. I still have mad anxiety. And, I have an amazing partner. I too have my own support system. So for me to sit here and say I have all of
You've done all this yourself.
if I figured it all out, I'd be lying to you. Like, there's days and times that I'm an absolute mess and dealing with some of these people and work. It's a stressful gig. And it's a 24/7 gig, but I'm still a mess, and I still have anxiety, and I still wake up, and I still have days where I don't really want to get out of bed and struggle a little bit with the depression side of things and anxiety side of things. So
what's the most important thing that you have right now that helps you get through those days?
a massive support system. I have a partner that understands it, and like nothing's off limits. So I can tell her anything, and then I have a sponsor, and I have a good group of friends that I rely on every day, that I can call anytime, that I text every day, that we all kind of check in with each other. I go to, we talk about 12-step programs. I'm still very involved with the 12-step program. And for me, spirituality, touching base with a higher power, I pray. I think that the spiritual side of things has been definitely life-changing for me, and part of that spiritual routine is getting to the gym and doing my thing. And whether it's the endorphins, maybe it's an endorphin thing with the addiction side of things, is going and releasing those endorphins and getting active and being physical.
Yeah.
All of that plays into what is my recovery and being to operate.
Yeah, it's your operating system.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, man.
So, as we wrap up this fantastic conversation, what's next? Like, what are your like goals, dreams, aspirations? Where are you going from here?
Well, we have a golf tournament coming up. I want to make the golf tournament more than a golf tournament. I want to make the golf tournament an event. I want people to kind of recognize that is a day where we all come together, and it's a day that it's more than a golf tournament. It's an event, and it's a spectacle.
Yeah.
And how we're going to get there, I don't know. If we take on a celebrity aspect, we are in communications with some local people to make it bigger. And yeah, the driving force to still be the best version of myself, to give back, to help others, to save lives, to help those, most importantly, with mental health and addiction that struggle. I know that it's a massive, massive task that we have. But for me, the biggest thing is to give back as much as we can. And yeah, I would be lying if the goal still wasn't to become top real estate agent in Northumberland, because that's still a goal.
Well, and you said yourself that it's because you have a certain means that you're able to do those other things. And so I guess it's all part of the big picture. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, Ryan. I appreciate you taking the time, and yeah, good luck with everything.
Well, thank you, and thanks for asking us to come on, John. And it's crazy in the short couple of weeks or month that we've known you, the relationship that we've built. So appreciate your support, and I hope that this podcast that you started, it looks like it's going to be kick ass.
Yeah,
we get lots of viewership. And thanks for having us on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now didn't I tell you that it was an inspiring story? But there's actually more. So after we stopped recording, Ryan and I continued our conversation about how important fitness is to each of us for our own mental health. And we want to share that with as many people as possible. So we came up with something really special, which we're calling the Fitness is My Vice giveaway. So my company, Reed Media Agency, and Ryan Huffman Real Estate have teamed up to give away 3 prize packs, including the following. 1 ticket to the Ryan Huffman Foundation Golf Tournament on Friday, May the 9th, 2025. The ticket price will be paid in full to the Ryan Huffman Foundation. 1 ticket to the Spartan Race in Clarington on Saturday, 17th of May 2025. Spartan Race being my twice yearly way of keeping me accountable to my own fitness goals. But that's not all. You'll also get a 3-month membership to the YMCA and a professionally produced video for your social media, which could either be to share your fitness journey or to use for any other purposes. So these 3 prize packs are going to be given away on Monday, the 3rd of February to 3 lucky winners selected at random. So how do you enter? Well, that part's super easy. All you got to do is go to either of our Instagram pages and find the reel that we'll post on January the 2nd announcing the Fitness is My Vice giveaway. And then you just got to share the reel to your Instagram story with the hashtag Fitness is My Vice, and then DM us the word fitness so we can confirm your entry, and that's it. Enter before January the 31st and winners will be announced on February the 3rd. Let's do this. And if you aren't one of the 3 lucky winners, we'd still love to see you at the Spartan Race and the Ryan Huffman Foundation Golf Tournament. So DM us on Instagram for more information about that. Thanks so much again to Ryan, and thanks to you for watching or listening. And did you know that there's a house in Wisconsin with a full Jurassic Park in the backyard? From Jeeps, mannequins dressed as park rangers, and massive animatronic dinosaurs. And the owner, who's known as Jurassic Jim, gives free tours and free dinosaur toys to anyone who wants to visit. Now that's totally true, by the way, and if you want to hear more real estate truths that are often stranger than fiction, stay tuned for the next episode of the Zero BS Real Estate Podcast. Bye for now.